Welcome to Private Equity Profits. Clifford Locks is a certified board of director, a trusted confidant to CEOs, C-level exec, and high-potential employees to help them clarify goals, unlock their potential, and create actionable strategic plans. Seth Greene is the nation's foremost authority on growing your business. He is the founder of the direct response marketing firm Market Domination LLC, and he is a 7-time best-selling author who has been interviewed on NBC, CBS, Forbes, Inc., CBS Money Watch, and many more. Cliff and Seth interview top players in the financial sector, focusing on private equity and real estate funds, discussing developments and trends shaping the industry. These experts will share with you how they've leveraged the power of equity funding to grow their businesses and increase profits, and how you can too. And now, here's your host, Cliff Locks.
Welcome to the Private Equity Profits Podcast. I'm Cliff Locks, your host, and with me today is Jennifer Lee. Jennifer has 27 years of experience as an expert in the financial field and is based in Florida. She has discovered that the relationship between a financial advisor and her clients is the most important during the times of emotional transition, such as divorce, business succession to your heirs, the sale of a business, or retiring. It was this discovery that drove Jennifer to found Modern Wealth, a financial advisory firm with a personal touch. She digs deeper to understand what drives her clients. This approach is what led her to the author of a book, Squeeze the Juice, Live with Purpose, Then Leave a Legacy. Jennifer, thank you so much for being here today. I'm excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me, Cliff.
That's my pleasure. Tell me about your background and how you got started and what led you to this specific career path.
So as a young child, I was encouraged by my father to get into accounting because I think he thought it would be a perfect match in his financial environment. He was a financial advisor since I was born. I worked in the financial industry in accounting for a number of years, and there was an opportunity when he had an opening in his office. It's interesting because I knew very little about what I would have to do as an advisor. I knew the lifestyle. I knew that my father enjoyed his relationships with his clients. I knew that he worked hard. I knew that, he was available to our family and we had a great life. But I didn't know that I was going to have to make phone calls and talk to people and try to talk to them about the different products. But I did take that jump, and that's what got me into the industry.
It's nice that you had that symbiotic, collaborative relationship with your dad. I think that's a very warm, important story. A lot of our clients and listeners are, very and ultra high net worth individuals, and that dynamics in the family sometimes can be wonderful or it can be stressful.
Yes.
In the financial planner, that advisor can play a very key role in trying to help. And I find that these individuals lean out to those, between the accountants, the lawyers, and their financial advisor for honest feedback on how to handle things that are the dynamics within the family. Everyone faces challenges when they're starting a career. Can you talk about some of those early lessons learned, which were pivotal to your success?
Sure. So, life in different generations in different industries, it shifts. The way that you're successful in business is a little bit different 25 years later, starting in the business. So, for me, I found that I am a relationship-oriented consultant. I don't even consider myself a salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas my father, growing up in the business, it was pounding the phones and making phone calls. And for me, that really wasn't going to work. I don't know if my skin wasn't as thick as his was, but it was much more comfortable for me to have a consultative relationship. And that actually takes a longer time to build your book, to build know, like, and trust, and to develop rapport with people that you can have a meaningful conversation. But that works for me, and that's really how I built my practice and my business. So if you were to say, who's a better salesperson, your father or you, he absolutely will clean up the floor with me.
Mm-hmm.
But who's got that deeper relationship with their client for, I hope, 20, 30 years, I would say that maybe that's me.
You focus on a personal approach to financial planning, specifically as it relates to the important times when an emotional transitions are occurring for a client. Was there a specific occurrence in your life that created an aha moment, providing you the foundation for building a personal, empathetic partnership with your clients?
I don't think there was anything specific that made me build my practice around empathy. I'll tell you that when I moved from Maryland to Florida, going on 9 years ago, it was an adjustment. I had a network, I had family, I had relationships that were deep and long in Maryland, and moving to Florida, I needed to meet new people. So I set out on a course to go network and meet people. And I went to some events and I reached out my hand when somebody asked me what you did. And I said, I'm a financial advisor. And I got what I call the lean back. They leaned away from me and said, I have one of you, and my husband handles that. And it always cracked me up because I'm like, you don't have one of me, but that's okay. And I had to really just look at my practice and how I approach things. So I looked at who are my best clients, who are my favorite clients to work with, and who needs me the most. And that happens to be, now we don't discriminate. We work with happily married couples, we work with men, but the sweet spot in our practice is women in financial transition. So somebody going through divorce, recently widowed, job change, major life upset. There's all these balls in the air. There's all this anxiety. And if we can take away a little bit of that anxiety, help create a path forward so that they're feeling a little bit better about where they're going, then I feel like that's a job well done. And that's really the practice focus.
That's very, very positive. In other words, you're looking at people that are highly stressed at this point, let's say the women, and they're really looking for some guidance at this point, because many of the wives may not have taken the initiative on the financial planning that was involved, and they would delegate it off to their husbands, and happy to have that. I have that in my wife and I at this point. But we also see the industry is trying to look at the survey. If we survey the wife and we survey the husband, what are their risk tolerances? Are they the same?
Almost never.
Okay, see, that's important, that input. Getting onto the same page and understanding what that looks like, you wonder if you'd have less divorce. In other words, talking about money and doing it in the relationship, doing it with a professional like yourself before there is a transition. And you see families, they're fighting over a few specifics, but you're living in that ecosystem and you know which ones they are.
Right.
So, as you look at it, how do we address that early? Sometimes you look at things where we're providing an education through, let's say, the middle school, high school, and the university at this point. But do we ever teach our youth what it is to be a parent, the financial acumen that they need to be successful on that side of it? They're just not ready sometimes to figure out that side of it. It's interesting. Jennifer, what are some of the things to look out for when planning investments during those times of transitions? Are there common mistakes or missteps made during such times?
Well, certainly it's a very common practice. If you ask any financial advisor, any reputable financial advisor, they would say, if there's a death or a divorce or a major shakeup, you shouldn't make any major decisions for 6 months. And that means, firing your advisor. That means buying or selling a new property. That means up and moving and uprooting your family to a new location because you want to get away from the grief of going through a loss, or you want to just get away from your newly divorced spouse. Those are things that in a highly emotional time, you don't want to make those steps. I've done some work with collaborative divorce and some attorneys in collaborative divorce. And really what that is, it's a wonderful thing. If you have, sometimes you have couples that just no longer are able to be together. And it's not a messy situation. It's just that, hey, we're not in love anymore and the kids are raised and maybe we want to separate out. And so in that process, there's really 3 parties. There's attorneys, each having an attorney. There's a financial professional that helps to navigate the accounts. And then there's oftentimes a social worker, right, who's going to kind of mediate and keep the calm. among, topics that get very heated and kind of focus back to, what are we really trying to do? What are your values? And again, it comes back to what are your values as a couple? I always try to have discussions with my clients about, okay, well, you were in love with this person. I understand you don't like them anymore, or you don't want to be with them anymore. That's okay. But who are you as a person, and what do you want for them? How can you be your best self in this situation? Also, I will tell you that in my practice, whenever I share what I do with a group of women, more times than not, somebody says, where were you when I needed you? Right? I didn't fight hard enough. I gave up too soon. I didn't know that taking the house would have made me cash poor. All these different things. So it's very important to have that counsel and that rational sounding board that is advocating for you. And that's really what we do. So this is even before we start managing money and moving accounts and all those things. It's the financial therapy, if you will, about what do you want your life to look like? And can you do without that house to have more cash flow on a regular basis so you can do the things you want? What is it that you want? One of the chapters in my book is financial planning is simple. And it's really just two things. What do you have? What are your assets? What are your resources? What's your income? And what do you want? And if you don't know what you want, I can't marry the two, right? So I need to know a list of these things. And then over here, what do you want? What is your life going to look like? Who do you want to spend time with? Where do you want to be? And then let's make your financial resources as efficient as possible to accomplish your goals.
So them outlining their vision of success, what it would look like, and then being honest with their assets that they have to work with allows you to create a very sound plan. That leads me to my next question. Part of your process is having clients communicate their values to the most important people in their lives by writing what you call a family love letter. Can you tell us more about what it is and how it can help a person make a wiser financial decisions?
I think of writing your family love letter as an integral tool and the spine basically of your financial plan. And it really it sums up a lot of different things. It certainly does not replace any legal documents. You certainly need a will and if appropriate, trusts and advanced healthcare directives and all of those good things. But your love letter is a complement to that. And it's writing your family and anybody who is dependent on you for emotional support, for financial support. It could be a child that is 17 and God forbid something happened to you. You want to make sure that child, that son of yours, understands what you believe a marriage should look like. So he could identify, who that right choice of wife is, because if you're not there, would have had a conversation with him about it. So it's communicating what's important to you from a value perspective. It's certainly saying things like, here's the life insurance, will provide the ability to take income off of that for your life. If you have a trust, you talk about that. I had a very personal experience with my family love letter in that my father, who was my mentor and just a very significant person in my life, he was diagnosed with a brain tumor about just over 5 years ago. And it was the worst of brain tumors. So it was a 4B, if you will. He was an advisor for 49 years of his life. When he got his diagnosis, he just started planning, right? He already had insurance. He already had documents. He already had all these things, but now he had to communicate it to us. His 3 kids and my mom, who is what I call a non-moneyed spouse. She's not interested in money. She doesn't have any aptitude for it. It's not that she can't learn it. She doesn't want to. So, my dad was diagnosed on a Friday. They gave him an aspirin, which for us was a gift. Because it meant the surgeon couldn't operate for a week. So we all went on our family vacation that Sunday. And the first day of the vacation, 4 o'clock in the morning, my dad was up writing notes about what he wanted to discuss. And at 6, we were all on the deck. He gave his family love letter in person. He talked to us about how he was going to pay off my mom's mortgages, or their mortgages, so there would be no mortgage. He talked about how much investments they had and what kind of RMDs she would have, or required minimum distribution she would have for income. He talked about his expectations of us. One of my favorite and sweetest things that he said is, your mother will never pull out her visa. And so, we're jumping, to pay the check. Oh, mom's not paying that, we're paying that. And he also talked about, who were the significant people in his life. There was a Sunday school teacher who had a great impact on his value system and helped him grow as a man. There is a woman who has the most beautiful voice in his church, and he wanted her to sing a certain thing at his service. While it's kind of a chilling discussion, if you really think about the people in your life that are important to you, what they need to know right now, if you were to make a phone call and tell them everything they need to know, it's a lot, right?
Very
It's
true.
a lot.
Yep.
So I try to encourage people, everybody. I mean, I do talks about this, but I try to encourage you to first just reflect on who needs you and what do they need to know. And most spouses, there's one money person, one non-money person. So, different responsibilities. The non-money person may handle all the kids, all the relationships, she may need to, and I'm making an assumption it's a woman, but it might be a woman. And she may say in her love letter to you, hey, make sure that you get the kids together for the holidays. Make sure that you do one family vacation a year where everybody is together, because it's important for the children and the siblings and the cousins to connect. And that means so much to me. I don't know, but it's a very personal discussion. The family love letter pulls together the entire financial picture. Where are your assets? Who are your trusted advisors? How much life insurance do you have? And then what are your values? And also things about, jewelry or a special item. I have a couple things I use. People say, well, gosh, I don't know what to think about. One of the things I always say is, if the house is on fire and you got your kids and your animals out, what are you running back in for? That's the stuff that you want to write a story about, right? That special watch from your uncle, that, whatever that item is.
When do you share the letter? Is it at the final, or can it be shared earlier?
No, I mean, I think that that's certainly a personal choice. My business partner, we were doing a presentation in October in Ohio. She's from Ohio. And we went there and I was doing the love letter talk. And she shared that her sister just found a 7-page love letter from her grandfather to his kids. And it was really cool because it has nothing to do with me, and it was generations ago. For me, I've shared mine already. It's in my book, actually, my personal one, because I wanted to just demonstrate, what does it look like? How does it feel? Because it could feel like an onerous task. I have not written them for all my nieces and nephews, and they're due. They're overdue, really. Meaning that I want to have them done so they're available. I don't know that I need to share them now. I have a short note. My dad was, I feel like I'm short on words. I have a 3-sentence note from my dad, and it's important to me. It's significant. He was more of a talker than a writer. And it's nice to have that piece that you can reflect on and say, how do they see you, right? How do you see your children? That's a wonderful thing to communicate.
Are you finding our clients are putting it into writing and others are doing video?
More recently, people have been talking about video. I think it makes them nervous to do it on video, but certainly you can. It's certainly easy with an iPhone at your access, and you can save it in Dropbox, and it's there and it's done, right? You can do little bits and pieces here and there, and I would just encourage any way that you can compose it will be great.
Very, very good. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
You wrote a book, Squeeze the Juice, Live with a Purpose, Then Leave a Legacy. Tell us about that and the inspiration behind your book.
So I have to tell you, I was working with a colleague talking about some marketing things, and And I was sharing with her that I had done a love letter presentation, and it was just a great experience. I had, no, there were only 30 business women that were together. I was communicating a variety of things and answering questions and just basically talking about making an introduction to what I do and how I can serve clients. And I find that in our industry, people don't really know what we do. Even my clients for many years, they don't know all the ins and outs of what I do. And I think that it's, for my practice, it's getting to know, like, and trust, right? I can't get to that other side of a meaningful conversation until I get to a place where the person I'm speaking with is open enough. They have enough comfort with who I am as a person, who I am as an advisor, what my basic capabilities are, and see if they can have a relationship. People don't call you out of the phone book and say, hey, I've got $10 million and I need you to manage it. I heard you were, I saw an ad and I think you're great. They get referred by friends and then they still drag their feet for 2 years. This book is really, it has some financial components, right? It has some foundational pieces. You're going to learn something whether you meant to or not if you read it, and then you can't unknow it. So that's great. So if you just read it and you learned a nugget or two, perfect. If you read it and you think, oh my gosh, my best girlfriend is just overwhelmed and going through something and she really needs to talk to somebody, she should read this and see if she wants to have a discussion with Jennifer. I'm not the right fit for everybody, but at least it's like a risk-free interview. She can read it and say, oh, I think she's kind of an interesting person. I'd at least have a conversation, or, hey, I don't like her style, and that's okay. But it's a way to communicate what we do in the financial industry, to give out some knowledge. Happy to do that. It's in my brain. You just share it. It's not it doesn't cost me anything to share it. But the squeeze the juice is really the idea is to get the most out of life, right? So whatever that might be, whether it, the juice of your podcast, what are you trying to accomplish? Who are you trying to affect? It's the meat of things. And then let the other stuff go.
Good wisdom. I'm interested in helping succeeding generation manage inherited wealth responsibly. You speak of leaving a legacy in your book. Do you have advice for the younger generation that is inheriting financial legacy?
It's a multi-layer effect, process. We can't really start with the younger generation getting this money dumped into their lap because they won't know what to do with it. And their mindset around money is very, very different. So I try, whenever possible, to get my clients that have children that are going to inherit wealth to start to get them acclimated around money sources, because they have to get a familiarity. Otherwise, they'll either be stagnated into doing nothing, or their philosophy on money might be radically different. I'll give you an example. I have a client who inherited at a young age of 32, $1.5 million assets. Well, and this goes back to the relationship part you mentioned before, husband and wife. Husband's value system around money was you get money in your pocket, you spend it. Buy a new car, pay off this. Wife's experience growing up was parents had decent jobs. They saved money. They planned, if their daughter wanted to ride horses, they planned to make sure they had enough money to do that. So when she inherited this money, it was a big contentious situation, because he wanted to buy a new truck. He wanted to pay off the house. He wanted to go on vacation. I spent a lot of time educating her, number one, that this is your money, your inheritance. It goes to your children. It's a downline. We want to protect that. If you want to share things with your husband, if you want to take the entire family on vacation, if you choose to buy him a truck, that's fine, but it's still over here and it's yours. You always want to keep inherited assets separate. 6 years later, she has this account that has provided, because of the discussions we had, private school for her kids, a $10,000 to $12,000 family vacation annually, horse riding support, so she stables her horse. And it's provide the asset is like a machine kicking out these things, this money, but it's not just money, it's lifestyle. And for their family, they're both social workers. So they were living paycheck to paycheck, save a little bit of money, but not a lot. So this adds to their life. And if she doesn't tap the principal, it'll go on to her kid's life. And so it's about educating people about and understanding their value system and trying to help them help themselves.
That's important. See, really, it's quality of life, and the assets provided dividends that allowed them to improve their quality. It's a foundational decision that you make with your financial planner. As an expert in the financial world, what are some of the general trends that you see facing investors today?
I think investors are disillusioned right now about the market and the potential for it to continue to grow at the rate that it has. In the last 10, 12 years, we've had an incredible run, and almost anything you bought went up. Concern I have for investors, the risk that they are encountering in a major way is that it's not sustainable indefinitely. So I think you really need to be mindful about, it's 10, 12 years later, your account went up significantly. Let's regroup. Let's reassess. Where is your risk? Today, maybe you were 40 before and you're 52 now. That's a little bit different. Maybe you were 50 and you're 62 now. Your life is different. When you answer those risk questionnaires, you're going to be in a much different space. So I think there's an asset allocation issue that is of concern. The second thing that I see often is people waiting too long to wake up, to really have knowledge. Now, I'm not saying that you need to put away all your money and not have any fun and live today, but let's be cognizant about it. Let's know where your money is going and coming from. I interviewed a new potential client just yesterday, and as we're talking, their monthly cash flow after tax is $19,000.
Okay.
I said, okay, that's great. How much are you saving? I don't know. Okay, well, what are you spending on them? I don't know. Okay, well, first step is we have to have knowledge. Here's what you have. Here's what do you want? And where is all this money going? We have to make this more efficient. So, I said in that conversation, because the husband started getting nervous, like, well, you're not going to take away some of, the fun stuff. I said, no, look, I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't spend. My job is to hold you accountable to, hey, Jennifer, I want a personal trainer. It costs me $1,000 a month. That's non-negotiable.
Okay.
That's fine if that's where you want to spend your money. But let's not spend it on a random toy every other month at Costco and, dinners out every night, whatever. It's just being mindful about your money. So I think that financial planning is important. It's not urgent and important. And that's the problem. There's no deadline for it. You think of a physical, you need to go get a physical, or you should get a physical every year. You think of your taxes, you got to do those. Those have a deadline. Your kids' school, signing them up for extracurricular activities, there's a deadline. But there's no deadline when I call you and say, it's time to do a financial review. Or let's have a discussion about your retirement. Oh, yeah, that can wait. Waking up and getting clear is, my greatest challenge for my clients, to wake them up.
Important conversation. Do you find the segmentation that certain clients are very open and very meticulous and want to spend that time with you, and others are just don't want to talk about the financial picture?
Definitely. Yeah, I have a very specific clientele that really fits and works with me, and they happen to be the group that doesn't like to talk about money. Okay. I try to soften that as much as I can. Money is just a tool. It's a tool to get what they want. So if I understand what they want, then I can help them facilitate the things they need to do to get that beach house, to get their kid in private school, to relocate to a different city. They don't necessarily like to talk about money. They know we're going to talk about it. Again, it's that more of that relational component. Because most of my clients are the non-moneyed parties. So they're happy to see me, but they like to see me for lunch. They like to stop by and have a coffee. And so there's a relaxed social component to it, and then the meat of the discussion.
It's interesting. You wonder about a vision board. In other words, you brought up these are the things they'd like to do. And on behind the scenes, you can actually execute on their behalf to make sure the resources are there so they can fulfill that. So they're visual, they don't really want to look at the financial side of it. Okay. And the financial side of it allows the positive, attributes of a great life.
Yeah, they don't call me and say, I need $300,000 because I'm going to buy something. They say, I want to buy a beach property. How am I going to do that?
Okay.
What do we need to do? And can you help me facilitate that?
Okay.
So
that's fine. At least they made the call.
That's right.
What will be your personal legacy, and what do you love about what you do?
I absolutely love what I do for a living. It's we recently had this $650 million Powerball or something. And I like to reflect on things like that to say, if you won that, what would you do? Okay. Right? After you buy whatever car and whatever beach house and those kind of things, and help everybody and their brother, what would you do with your time and your money? I think that speaks to your values and what's important. And I would do what I do for a living now. Probably on a bigger scale, maybe a lot of pro bono, then I would be spending most of my time trying to figure out how to give that money away, because you can't spend all that money. And if you just invest it, you've got plenty to give away. So that's kind of a nice idea. So my legacy right now, from a financial perspective, is my book. It's a lot of my tribal knowledge. It's a lot of my experience. So I hope it will help people, no matter where they are in their life. I think that there's at least one or two things you can get from it. And it's a quick read. It's a 2-hour read, because I made it relatable and easy to absorb, again, for that non-moneyed client. And then my real legacy in life is the relationship I have with my nieces and nephews. That's really what's important to me.
Very, very good. Where can our listeners find your book?
So you can find my book on Amazon, or I have a website called squeezethejuicebook.com. I think there's a free chapter on there you can download if you want to just get a feel for the writing and whether it's for you.
It's a good read. I mean, it was very informative. Jennifer, is there anything that I have not touched on that you would like to mention or add?
I think we really hit a lot of the highlights. Probably my favorite thing in this business is to give away knowledge. So anytime there's an opportunity to do a podcast like this or have a conversation with a group of people, I'm delighted to do it, because it's always a lively discussion after the little mini talk. And everybody likes to give feedback about what's happening in their family situation. And it's a fun experience. So if there's opportunities like that for me to give back, it would be my pleasure.
That leads me to one of my projects that I enjoy supporting. I consistently hear from my listeners they enjoy creating paid internships, co-ops, summer jobs to provide vibrant learning opportunities for youth. They find it to be a wonderful recruiting tool, as an internship program provides the opportunity to hire a known and mentor them into talented executives. I think we can agree the best leaders are just great mentors and teachers. Please consider adding more women to participate in your paid internships. Each of us can make a positive contribution and change the lives of young people for the better, and it personally feels great. Jennifer, thank you so much for spending this time with us and sharing your story. You have certainly helped many people during difficult times. All of us in the financial industry could benefit from examining some of the strategic ideas that make your approach unique. Jennifer, I'll share your company's web address, modern-wealth.com. It's spelled modern-wealth.com. Again, that is modern-wealth.com. Would you like to share your contact information with our listeners?
Sure. My numbers and email are also on the website, but my email is jennifer@modern-wealth.com. And our office number is 941-251-0510.
Thank you to our listeners. I look forward to being back with you shortly for another episode of Private Equity's Profits Podcast. The show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC.